That day, the world officially met its end. Humanity's strongest forces were reduced to nothing against the newly emerged invaders. Amidst the ruined battlefield, only Xenon Glorious and Alez Coven remained standing. Xenon Glorious, head of the Glorious family, scanned the battlefield in sheer disbelief. Alez Coven bitterly confirmed that everyone else had perished. Neither the prophet Liliana nor the summoner Galahad stood a chance against the enemy. Xenon told Alez to pour everything she had into supporting his final strike. He drew his sword, gearing up for an all-out assault. Facing the colossal, oppressive entity, Xenon only aimed to land a single, decisive blow. Alez reminded him that even their 9-star party failed to win, but Xenon refused to back down. He unleashed the 9th form of the Holy Light Sword Arts, carving a massive streak of light. Following up with the 10th form, Xenon wagered his very life on the blade. Alez stared in awe as he clung to hope in a doomed situation. Xenon lunged straight at the giant like a blinding golden flash. The invader casually raised a hand to block his strike. Xenon gritted his teeth, enduring the explosive energy tearing around them. He swung his blade, radiant golden power, clashing against the invader's defense. The magic wave halted. Xenon pushed forward, closing the gap. He roared Alez's name to trigger the next phase of the plan. Alez instantly cast support magic, telling Xenon to put his faith in her. He dashed across floating debris held up by her spells, forcing the enemy into a corner. The giant retaliated with a devastating ground smash that shattered everything. Xenon vaulted high into the air, dodging by a hair. He kicked off a levitating boulder, building momentum for his ultimate strike. Xenon roared, unleashing a vicious, spinning slash. Golden light erupted from the sword, sparking a fiery blast that ripped through space. Alez couldn't believe her eyes, witnessing Xenon's explosive power. Yet the invader stood unfazed, an unbreakable wall of steel. Exhausted, Xenon screamed that he couldn't die here. A heartbeat later, he coughed up a massive mouthful of blood, his body pushed past its limits. Alez shrieked for him to stop, terrified his body would shatter if he kept going. Ignoring the warning, Xenon forced himself up, prepping for one last hit. Alez froze, her mind made up. She gripped her staff tight, preparing a specialized spell. She cast Light Prison, locking Xenon down right where he stood. Alez told him he was the final hope to save this world. Xenon screamed in fury. If that monster didn't die, everyone would perish. She looked at him with unshakable resolve, leaving everything in his hands. Alez believed he was the only one who could rewrite this doomed fate. She pulled a pocket watch from her neck, a magical heirloom passed down her bloodline. A blood-red magic circle materialized over the invader as it closed in. Alez yelled that they were out of time. She forced him to promise he wouldn't let those bastards win next time. The watch glowed brilliantly, charging up for a journey back through time. Alez smiled, entrusting the future to him, and shoved Xenon into the swirling vortex of light. The crimson magic circle flared up, marking the dawn of a brand new destiny. Tears streamed down her smiling face as Alez said her final goodbye before he faded into the void. A colossal blue pillar of light erupted from the ground, carrying the hero's soul into the past. The invader's magic circle detonated, shaking the very earth. The antique watch dropped to the dirt, its hands magically spinning in reverse. It laid silent on the cracked ground, signaling the regression spell was a success. The invader struck Alez down. A violent coughing fit racked her body with agony. Whispering her final breath in the future, Alez knew the regression magic worked flawlessly. This mythical pocket watch was a divine relic capable of bending the world's fate. Xenon's soul drifted among the stars, ready to reincarnate as Noah Daskor. Opening his eyes, he found Oscar Gray barking orders at the guards to restrain him. The grunts marched forward, looking down on the frail young master before them. Noah clenched his fist. This new body felt like garbage, but his combat instincts remained razor-sharp. With a lightning-fast kick, he launched the first guard trying to grab him across the room. The guard crashed onto his back, howling in pain from the heavy gut shot. Another lunged with a heavy punch. Noah smoothly ducked, then delivered a brutal uppercut that sent the thug flying. His speed and raw power caught the guards off guard, leaving them no time to react. He stood tall in the center of the room, while Oscar Gray casually watched from the doorway. Noah realized this body was laughably frail compared to his old one. He wondered why he was poisoned. A massive conspiracy was clearly targeting Noah. Oscar Gray coldly ordered the guards to execute Noah, regardless of his injuries. Right then, Noah noticed something bizarre pop up in his vision. A status window for the two guards appeared. Meanwhile, the grunts charged, threatening to make him suffer if he didn't surrender. A blue panel revealed this was the ultra-rare appraisal skill. Noah was stunned. This skill never existed in his past life. Thanks to it, he read his enemies like an open book, dodging a razor-sharp blade by a hair. The guard roared, swinging his sword at Noah in a blind rage. He had no idea his every move was playing right into Noah's hands. With a vicious spin kick, he easily disarmed the grunt. Noah snatched the weapon, gripped the hilt, and radiated pure main character energy. The blade sliced the air as Noah prepped to clear the room. Two swords clashed, ringing out a deafening screech that cracked the guard's weapon. With masterclass skill, he unleashed a clean slash, blasting both the man and his sword away. The maids at the door stood frozen, unable to process how the sickly young master was flexing this hard. Oscar Gray sarcastically praised him, nodding the Daskor bloodline was lethal even in a sickbed. Noah glared at him with ice-cold eyes, daring the noble to step up and fight. A scorching heat flared inside Noah, dark purple smoke wrapping around his body. This was the power of the demonic core, the signature energy of the Daskor magic swordsman. But his soul also housed the holy core, the radiant power of the glorious family from his past life. These two clashing energies were never meant to coexist in one living body. Oscar smirked, watching Noah's energy violently spiral out of control. He revealed the medicine Noah had been drinking was pure poison, designed to force his body to detonate. Oscar Gray coldly stated that massive demonic energy was devouring Noah's body, and this fight just triggered the breaking point. Realizing he was hanging by a thread, Noah gambled on whether this new body could handle the power surge. He pushed the holy core from his past life to compress and suppress the rampaging demonic energy. Pure holy light bathed Noah, intertwining with brilliant purple lightning to create an awe-inspiring aura. Oscar scoffed at the pointless resistance, unleashing the first form of the eerie abyss sword arts. He triggered the void step technique, morphing into a blur of red-black smoke and blitzing Noah at terrifying speed. Noah zeroed in, his piercing gaze tracking every micro-movement to parry the strike. Two blades collided violently, sparking a blinding energy blast that shook the entire room. Oscar Gray was left stunned. Noah didn't just block the hit, he reacted with Grandmaster speed. Noah silently popped appraisal, exposing Oscar as a 3-star in swordsmanship and physique, but only a 2-star in demonic core. Oscar screamed in rage, refusing to accept that a piece of trash dared to fight him head-on. Noah unleashed a flawless crescent slash, tearing through the shroud of dark energy. Oscar pushed his crimson dark aura to attack, but Noah stood his ground like a mountain in a storm. Holy light and demonic shadows clashed relentlessly, pushing the fight to its boiling point. Oscar's face twisted in shock at the hidden power Noah just unleashed out of nowhere. Noah chained together heavy slashes, steadily pushing the arrogant noble into a corner. After that exchange, Noah fully downloaded the limits and flaws in Oscar's technique. However, he knew if this dragged into a war of attrition, this frail body would collapse. Seeing Noah panting, Oscar laughed, claiming his earlier confidence was just a crumbling facade. Noah smirked, his eyes ice-cold, as if everything was going exactly according to plan. Oscar charged in like a madman, dead set that Noah could never read his footwork. He roared in triumph, diving at Noah wrapped in a storm of red-black demonic energy. Noah stood unfazed in the eye of the dark vortex, patiently waiting for his opponent to get caught lacking. Brilliant purple energy surged into Noah's blade, charging up a game-ending counter. Noah spotted Oscar's fatal opening and delivered a lightning-fast slash right at the weak point, shattering his sword and disarming him. A devastating explosion followed instantly, thick dust blinding the room from the heavy impact. Oscar Gray collapsed pathetically, coughing up blood, unable to comprehend how he got cooked. Noah coldly explained that while Oscar used his demonic core to mask his body, He was too arrogant to think he could hide his soul's presence. Oscar shivered in despair, stammering about the monstrous power Noah just flexed. Looking at his own pressure-cracked sword, Noah admitted even he didn't fully grasp this power yet. He clearly felt the miraculous fusion between his original holy core and Noah's innate demonic core. This hybrid of rival energies birthed an unprecedented power, defying all logic. Noah believed that if he mastered this energy, he would definitely save the world this time around. Remembering Alez's pained smile, Noah silently thanked her for guiding him to this final ray of hope in his new life. Two maids rushed into the room in a panic, anxiously asking if young Master Noah was hurt. Noah calmly brushed it off, then narrowed his eyes at the window, asking what the hell was hovering outside. It was a tiny gray messenger dragon, clutching a red wax-sealed letter in its jaws. A maid took the letter, explaining it was a direct summons from Lord Victor, head of the Daskor family. Noah took the mysterious envelope, as the maid added it was about joining the succession war. He stared at the letter, deep in thought. A new world, a new identity. He needed to figure out this twisted family to secure his future. Noah turned to the maids, asking straight up what they knew about this succession war. One maid froze, anxiety written all over her face at the mention of it, while the little dragon flapped away. She stated grimly that in the Daskor household, even the servants had to know the rules. It was a bloodbath among siblings, designed to forge the Daskor family into an absolute powerhouse. Put simply, a war to harvest demon cores. Siblings butchered each other, and the victor directly absorbed the loser's demon core. Noah figured it out. No wonder he heard zero gossip about this family before regressing. They were just quietly slaughtering each other the whole time. The maid looked at Noah with pure worry, asking again if he really wanted to dive into this insane family war. Noah answered her concern with a cocky, confident smirk. He walked off coolly, telling her to just wait and see. She'd get her answer soon enough. Noah's mind flashed back to the glorious castle of his old family, where the radiant holy core symbolized justice and honor. The Daskor family was the polar opposite, a dark, inverted castle bathed in blood-red moonlight. A place reeking of disgust and fear, a martial arts faction fueled by demonic power. And sitting at the top of that dark empire was Victor Daskor, hailed as humanity's strongest swordsman, a man radiating terrifying pressure from his glowing red eyes. Noah stood before the imposing main hall doors, heavily guarded by soldiers. He was ready to face the music. He vowed to use his own eyes to pierce through every secret of this hellhole. The doors swung open, and Noah Daskor strolled in with the swagger of a true noble, hand resting lightly on his chest. He bowed on the red carpet, greeting the familiar faces waiting ahead. "So this is my new family?" Noah evaluated silently as he stepped closer. First up was Damien Daskor, the eldest son, a massive brute rocking intimidating black armor. Next was Julia Daskor, the eldest daughter with snow-white hair and eyes as cold as ice. Then the second son, Cease Daskor, a guy with messy blonde hair who looked light on his feet. Beside him was the second daughter, Eve Daskor, wearing a gloomy expression in a modest black dress. Noah paused when he spotted a familiar shadow in the back, disgust bubbling up inside him. That was Scar Daskor, the third son. That smirking bastard right there was the one who sneakily poisoned him. Julia spoke up first, nodding the rumors of Noah's recovery were actually true. Noah didn't miss a beat, stating he had pinpointed the exact root cause of his illness. She asked if he planned to rest up and fully recover, but Noah cut her off. Nope, his only goal now was to train his sword. Julia's gaze sharpened, reevaluating the youngest brother she used to look down on. Scar stood nearby and scoffed, mocking that a weakling like Noah trying to swing a sword was just a waste of time. Noah whipped around, zero hesitation, calling his older brother a gutless coward right to his face. If he lacked the balls to fight head-on, he better shut his mouth. Scar lost his mind at Noah's unexpected backbone, grinding his teeth and cursing after getting humiliated by the youngest. Julia told Scar and Noah to shut it. They looked toward the back of the hall as the air suddenly grew thick. A loud voice announced, "Lord Victor has arrived." Both Noah and Julia braced themselves. Heavy footsteps echoed on the high platform, each step shaking the very room. Julia and Damien bowed in unison, not daring to make eye contact. The rest sees Eve and even the aggressive Scar, all bowed down in deep reverence. Noah broke into a cold sweat, feeling a crushing pressure bearing down on his shoulders. This aura was genuinely terrifying. The imposing figure of a man stepped forward, a legendary swordsman whose name was known by everyone even in Noah's past life. It was Victor Dasquer, the current head of the family, wielding absolute power and hailed as humanity's strongest, a bona fide 9-star demonic magic swordsman. Victor sat proudly on his majestic throne, looking down at his waiting children and nodding that everyone seemed to be here. With a cold face and piercing eyes, he declared the council meeting officially open. Inside the grand Dasquer Hall, Noah stood face to face with his father Victor on the high throne. The other siblings surrounded them, the tension cutting like a knife. Victor sat tall, coldly stating this gathering was to confirm Noah's intentions. The youngest son nodded without missing a beat. Victor glared at Noah, interrogating him on what he planned to do with a body that just barely survived an illness. Noah didn't flinch. The corner of his mouth twitched into a smirk at his father's question. He loudly declared to the whole room that he would stand at the top and win the Dasquer succession war. Victor raised an eyebrow, asking if this was a declaration of war against every candidate in the room. Noah clenched his fist, telling his old man flat out that he had it wrong. Standing in the center of the hall, Noah announced this was a challenge to every single person present. His eyes swept over Julia and his brothers, marking them as heavyweights he had to crush. Scar and his sisters were no exception. In Noah's eyes, they were no longer regular family members. He stared right into Victor's seasoned face, even the father standing at the peak. It was just another hurdle he had to clear to reach his goal. Victor twitched his hand, and the atmosphere instantly froze with killing intent. A massive wave of dark purple magic pressure erupted, trapping Noah. This was Victor's real test. The pressure was so intense that the stone pillars in the hall started cracking under the insane force. Floor tiles shattered and flew everywhere. The family head's aura was no joke. Noah gritted his teeth against the suffocating dark aura, recognizing this as Victor's demonic core power. Victor looked down at his son, mockingly asking if Noah seriously believed he could survive his power. Fighting the crushing pressure, Noah kept his smirk and nodded with absolute conviction. Victor pressed harder, demanding the real reason why Noah hungered for such massive power. Noah stared dead into his father's eyes, replying that he needed strength so no one could ever snatch anything from him again. This answer amused Victor. A proud smile crept onto his face. Victor leaned back on the throne, admitting that kind of nerve was worthy of a Dasquer. He stood up and loudly proclaimed Noah Dasquer had officially joined the succession war, daring anyone with a problem to step up. Noah's siblings reacted with a mix of shock, disgust, and pure rage at their father's announcement. Victor roared, ordering Noah to crave even more power to prove he deserved this new status. The scene cut to the magnificent Dasquer, estate under a crystal-clear blue sky after the meeting. Noah threw himself into training in the yard, his wooden sword tearing a straw dummy to shreds in the blink of an eye. He kept swinging relentlessly, ignoring the maids whispering and watching from behind. Noah looked at his hands, thinking that even though his stamina had improved, he barely met the minimum specs to fight. Recalling his past, Noah realized with this holy demonic fusion, he couldn't fight the same way anymore. The intertwining purple and gold energy on his hands troubled him. This hybrid power was insanely rare. His stats popped up, 2-star physique but 9-star sword technique. He knew he had to keep this secret at all costs. Without warning, a voice called out, praising Noah's movements for not looking like a guy who just recovered from a sickbed. It was Julia Dasquer, his arrogant older sister. Noah asked in surprise why she was at the training grounds. Julia brought up Damien, the only one their father favored until Noah crashed the party. She stepped up, her face cold, stating she wanted to see this newly awakened strength of his with her own eyes. Julia didn't hesitate, grabbing her hilt and dropping into a combat stance instantly. Noah flinched as Julia drew her blade and called the start of the match with zero warning. A devastating slash ripped through the air straight at Noah, so fast he only caught a red blur. Julia closed in with dead eyes, asking if Noah seriously thought she came here just to chat. Noah gritted his teeth, pushing his focus to the max to block his sister's ruthless sneak attack. Julia dove from above with a heavy strike, but Noah raised his sword just in time to parry. He figured this was the perfect chance to test exactly where his current limits were. Julia didn't let up, unleashing a flurry of lightning-fast strikes that boxed Noah in. Her footwork was flawless, executing jumps with terrifying precision and power. A brutal kick from Julia sent Noah skidding backward, his feet carving deep trenches into the dirt. Julia stood tall, admitting Noah had talent but still wasn't enough to entertain her. Noah popped appraisal, Julia Dasquer, a genius sitting at 7 stars across the board. She mocked him, asking if this was the strength their father acknowledged. Noah cracked a smile despite the sweat pouring down his face, realizing his sister had actually reached the terrifying 7-star realm. Julia closed the gap, disappointment written all over her face. She wanted to end this boring match. Her speed was insane. Noah barely kept up as a slash grazed his face. Noah tightened his grip on the wooden sword, the holy demonic core energy boiling inside him. He swung his blade, knocking away Julia's strike, the clash of energies sparking blinding lightning. Noah froze for a second, feeling the holy demonic core erupting way harder than he anticipated. The two wooden swords collided, setting off an energy blast that swept the whole yard. Julia sneered, calling Noah's hybrid power a piece of trash, and asking if this was the pathetic core he was born with. Noah stood firm in the glowing energy, his eyes sharper and colder than ever. He thought to himself, if you didn't know this was a fusion of demonic and holy cores, it really did look like a defective product. Noah knew that if he fought seriously, his sister wouldn't be much of a threat. He challenged Julia, swearing to show her whether this was actually trash or not. Julia looked at Noah, totally hyped, realizing her little brother was actually enjoying the fight. Noah charged straight at Julia, his wooden sword blazing with soul energy, throwing defense out the window. Julia stepped back to dodge, calling Noah's name with a highly calculated tone. Noah replied, fully aware that the true endgame of the Dasquer succession war was snatching cores to forge the strongest warrior. Julia tossed her cracked wooden sword to the dirt, planting her feet for a real fight. Blood-red killing intent flared around Julia, her eyes dripping with greed as she demanded Noah's demonic core. Noah was shocked by his sister's vicious 180. This was no longer a friendly spar. Sensing the danger, Noah yelled for Selena, ordering her to toss him a real sword. From a distance, Selena quickly chucked a heavy broadsword to her master. Noah caught the blade, while Julia rushed in with a massive wave of magic. Julia tore in like a crimson tornado. Noah roared, bracing for the brutal impact. He gritted his teeth, struggling to stand his ground against the soul-crushing weight on his sword. Julia remained terrifyingly calm in the eye of the red-black energy storm, slowly taking control. Noah's eyes flared, tracking her every micro-movement to spot an opening. Noah swung a slash that grazed Julia's face. She laughed, admitting Noah did way better than she expected. She demanded her little brother show her more, telling him not to end the fight too soon. Instantly, Julia fell back, winding up for a high-tier sword technique. Julia unleashed the Shadow Flame Sword Art's first form, Shadow Flame Sword Dance, wrapping her blade in lethal red-black fire. Noah recognized this move was bad news and funneled all his energy into defense. Julia rushed like a hurricane, a wave of black fire sweeping the yard with devastating, destructive force. Noah raised his sword to block. The two powers collided violently, triggering booming explosions. The shockwave was so fierce that Selena and the maids had to cover their heads and run for cover. Through the dust, Noah shot Julia a defiant look, asking if she planned to keep fighting one-handed. Julia dared Noah to use enough overwhelming power to force her to use both hands. Noah didn't hesitate to push forward, his sword sparking with lightning as it clashed with Julia's blood-red aura. Noah poured everything into his strike. He genuinely wanted to take down his sister Julia. Julia immediately brought her sword up to parry. The two powers violently smashed together, sparking a blinding energy blast in the middle of the yard. Julia cracked a smile, seeing Noah finally forced to use both hands just to hold his sword steady. The insane pressure from Julia sent Noah flying, his feet ripped right off the ground. Noah clenched his jaw, sweat pouring down his face as he gave 100% just to avoid getting cooked. An energy blast erupted from Noah's spot, kicking up a thick dust cloud that blinded the area. Julia stood silent in the smoke, her sharp eyes tracking her brother's every move. Noah realized that even tapping into the full power of his holy demonic core, he barely survived his sister's strike. He stared at the trembling sword in his hand, feeling the massive drain on his energy. Noah knew this was the absolute ceiling of the holy demonic core he could unleash right now. Julia stopped dead in her tracks, asking Noah if he knew why the Daskor family didn't just slaughter each other on day one. She explained that the stronger a core gets, the slower it grows, which is why they don't target weaklings. To Julia, harvesting a low-level core was completely pointless. However, Noah blocking and even countering her last move made Julia rethink everything. Her eyes burned red with ambition, declaring a core at this level was well worth stealing. Noah bit his lip in annoyance, realizing he had just officially become prey for his psycho sister. In a flash, Julia fired up the Shadow Flame Sword Arts, 8th form, drowning the area in red-black fire. A loud shout ripped through the fight, "Enough!" Kyle threw himself between them, using his sword to block the killing intent aimed at Noah. He loudly warned Lady Julia that if she kept going, young Master Noah would definitely die. Julia ordered Kyle to back off, insisting this was a legitimate core-snatching battle within the family. Kyle fired back, calling it a joke since Noah's core was only at a 2-star level. Noah stood behind him, panting heavily as he watched Kyle and Julia go back and forth. Kyle stated he investigated under Lord Victor's orders, and Noah's core was currently drained dry. Julia squinted at Noah, highly suspicious, calculating that a 2-star limit couldn't possibly block that attack. Noah stood tall, keeping a tight grip on his sword despite his exhausted body. Julia slightly lowered her blade, admitting she might have misread Noah's current state. Still, she reminded Noah she was craving his core big time. Julia proposed a serious rematch once Noah grew stronger and his core fully matured. Noah flashed a cocky smile, firing back that he couldn't wait for that day. Julia turned her back and walked off, her silhouette vanishing down the mansion's grand hallway. Deep down, Julia knew something was off. That last strike wasn't something a 2-star could ever block. She was positive Noah was hiding some earth-shattering secret about his true power. Julia smirked to herself. This race for the throne was going to be way more entertaining than she thought. The majestic Daskor castle loomed. Inside, furious cursing echoed off the walls. It was Scar Daskor, the older brother losing his mind, trashing the place because he couldn't swallow the truth. Sitting among beautiful women, Scar was still fuming, unable to stomach that a piece of trash like his brother got a seat at the succession table. He screamed in frustration, because even he had never gotten that kind of validation from their father. Mid-tantrum, a subordinate rushed in with fresh intel on his precious little brother. Hearing the news, the tension in the room instantly dropped. But then Scar broke into a sinister grin. He just cooked up a highly entertaining idea. His eyes flashed with malice, swearing to personally drag Noah off the succession stage. Meanwhile, at the estate, a fully armored knight approached to greet Noah with deep respect. He introduced himself as Kyle, assigned as Noah's personal instructor, which caught Noah off guard. Kyle explained Lord Victor didn't want Noah eliminated too early and sent him to make up for the time spent bedridden. Noah didn't buy it instantly and silently popped appraisal to scan the guy. The stats made Noah flinch. Kyle's real name was Heil Olsen, an 8-star powerhouse, a true master. Seeing this level was enough to trust him, Noah asked about training, but Kyle handed over a letter instead. It was a direct, heavily sealed order from Victor himself. Noah cracked it open and saw his first mission: investigate and wipe out a miasma pool, a deadly zone of toxic energy. This was an insanely dangerous phenomenon where thick miasma birthed savage monsters, and the only fix was to kill the boss monster. Noah smirked. He wasn't scared at all. If anything, he found it exciting. He saw this as a golden opportunity to leverage the situation and flex his true power. Soon enough, the squad hit the forest. The guards swung their swords, quickly clearing out the mutated spiders blocking their path. Noah hung back, ordering the grunts to keep the pace and wipe out every last bug. A soldier quickly snapped off a spider's fang, its purple blood splattering across the dirt. But the grunts below started whispering, looking down on Noah since rumors pegged him at a pathetic 2-star level. Even Kyle looked at Noah with doubt, wondering what Victor saw in this frail-looking kid. Out of nowhere, a desperate cry echoed from ahead, signaling bad news. They found a few kids lying unconscious in the woods, looking absolutely miserable. Kyle anxiously asked about the kids' condition, while Noah quickly read the room. Noah decided to bring the kids along since clearing the miasma was priority number 1. They couldn't waste time backtracking. The squad moved out immediately, each night carrying a kid on their back to escape the gloomy forest fast. But the miasma density spiked violently, the sky turning a deeply unnatural purple. Noah sensed the boss monster was definitely lurking close, waiting to strike. Boom, giant spiked pincers slammed into the earth, shaking the entire zone. The monster revealed itself, making Kyle go pale. It was a Scorpia, an insanely strong mutated scorpion. Facing the monster's overwhelming pressure, Noah snapped an order for the guards to get the kids to safety. Kyle warned that the miasma had buffed this Scorpia to rank A, giving it armor as hard as steel. Its tail hoisted high, ready to skewer anything that dared step in its way. Noah screamed a warning as the monster made its move. The massive tail crashed down like a meteor, blowing a massive crater in the ground and sending guards flying. The grunts scrambled up, terrified by the impossible power and speed of this rank beast. Seeing Noah charge straight at the scorpion, the guards panicked, convinced a 2-star like him was about to get cooked. The Scorpia snarled, baring its ugly fangs as it locked onto the tiny prey rushing in. But Noah didn't flinch. He vaulted into the air, wrapped in a brilliant purple-gold aura, prepping a decisive strike. Noah masterfully dodged a pincer snap from the giant Scorpia. Instantly, he swung a counter, his purple-gold aura exploding with power. Kyle and the guards were blown away by his reflexes, but Kyle yelled that the poison was the real threat. The monster instantly spat a toxic green beam, smoking as it shot toward Noah. Noah flipped in midair, dodging every deadly toxic shot blasted his way. The Scorpia's tail whipped up again, dripping with lethal poison and a terrifyingly sharp stinger. A crimson blur moved at horrifying speed, making everything tremble. The Scorpia fired its deadly red stinger, a blazing streak that shook the earth. The sharp stinger flew right at his face. Noah stood like a mountain, gripping his sword tight for a counter. His eyes narrowed, hyper-focused on the incoming projectile. Clang, a brutal slash deflected the stinger, carving a bright streak through the air. The guards couldn't believe their eyes, admitting that even if Noah's magic core was weak, his swordplay was unreal. But to everyone's shock, the Scorpia's tail regenerated a fresh stinger in a heartbeat. The monster fired another lethal stinger at Noah from a distance, its wind-tearing speed leaving deadly trails of light. Noah calmly brought his sword up to block, channeling all his power into the blade to catch the stinger. Noah gripped his hilt, his face radiating pure resolve without a single drop of fear. He leapt up, delivering a heavy, head-on slash right into the beast's massive frame. Sparks flew as the blade bit into the dense armor of the snarling Scorpia. A loud clang rang out, proving its shell was insanely hard to crack with raw force alone. Noah realized the armor was way too thick to bust through with brute strength right now. Watching from the sidelines, Kyle wondered how Noah possessed such god-tier sword skills without any master. Knowing he needed a combo, Noah yelled for Kyle to help open up a weak point. He asked Kyle to draw its aggro for just a second, and the knight agreed instantly. The Scorpion's tail slammed down again, a heavy strike aimed dead at Kyle. Kyle roared, flexing his full 8-star power to block the beast's explosive attack. With Kyle locking down the lethal tail, Noah found his golden window for a finishing blow. He dashed in at Godspeed, silently praising Kyle's flawless and perfectly timed assist. Noah launched himself high, using the Scorpion's own body as a springboard to reach the weak spot on its back. He landed firmly on the monster's back, aiming straight for the tiniest gap in its armor. Noah pulled out a razor-sharp fang, ready to drive a lethal stab right into the critical spot. He threw his entire weight into driving the fang into the Scorpia's fatal weak point, cracking it wide open. But the spider fang snapped in half, only cracking a small patch of the iron-hard shell. Noah realized he couldn't one-shot the Scorpia, and only managed to piss it off more. He vaulted off the beast, leaving a glowing trail across its back. The stab drove the Scorpio insane. It whipped its tail, triggering a massive shockwave. Noah landed smoothly. Kyle ran up, asking if he just used a fang from the spiders they killed on the way here. He explained the spider venom acted as a debuff to soften its rock-hard shell. It finally clicked for Kyle. The young master had this planned from the jump. The giant scorpion stomped forward, its eyes glowing blood-red. It lashed its spiked tail at Noah, but completely missed. A barrage of glowing blue magic circles popped up over the Scorpia's head, firing off deadly green poison arrows. The toxic arrows rained down on Noah and Kyle. Kyle instantly powered up, unleashing the third form of the demonic sword arts. Kyle slammed his sword straight into the dirt, the raw power shaking the ground violently. "Demonic barrier," Kyle roared, popping a deep purple shield to tank the poison arrows. A piece of the spider fang Noah stabbed was still lodged in the Scorpia, and the crack was slowly spreading. Right on script, Noah flashed a cryptic smirk, knowing it was time to execute the Scorpion boss. He shot up like a lightning bolt, wrapped in a surge of purple and gold energy. Noah moved so fast he left glowing afterimages hanging in the air. In a heartbeat, he dodged the counterattack and closed in on its weak point. He kicked off the ground, soaring high to set up the execution strike. The image of his sister Julia and her devastating swordplay flashed in his mind. Noah funneled all his mana into his blade, his eyes radiating pure ice. He prepped the holy demonic sword technique, a masterclass move. "Lichido sword dance," Noah's shout echoed through the forest. He plummeted down with his sword, tearing the air with world-ending power. The giant scorpion raised a pincer to block, completely helpless against Noah's destructive magic. Boom, a deafening crack ripped the sky. The beast exploded into pieces, green slime raining everywhere. The guards stood frozen, minds blown that the so-called weakling was this cracked. Even after carrying the raid, Noah wasn't satisfied, thinking he still needed more training. Kyle walked up to congratulate him, but Noah coldly handed the cleanup duty over to them. He said he had personal business to handle and walked straight into the deep woods. Noah moved silently through the thick fog of the miasma forest. He was piecing together the real source, spawning these deadly miasma pools. Noah knew the secret was an artifact designed to pull in massive amounts of dark energy. He stopped at a bizarre ancient tree, glowing with a faint blue aura. A clean slash split the old bark wide open. Hidden inside the hollow was a silver ring, giving off a magical shimmer. Holding the ring, Noah smirked. He found exactly what he came for. Right then, a blood-curdling roar shook the area. "What the hell?" Noah spun around, instantly on high alert. He hauled ass toward the source of that messed-up sound. 3 unconscious kids came into view, their necks locked in weird chains. Kyle ran up, panicked, delivering the bad news. Noah drew his sword, dropping into a stance as a heavy killing intent closed in. Out of the shadows, giant orcs stepped up, gripping spiked clubs, eyes burning red. Alongside them, a swarm of scorpions and a gray wolf with glowing red eyes waited to pounce. Noah and the guards were boxed in by a monster army, setting the stage for a brutal fight. Distracted, Noah almost got tagged by a scorpion creeping in with its lethal tail. Luckily, Kyle spotted it, screamed Noah's name, and charged in to guard his master. Kyle's clutch save pulled Noah out of the fire just in time. Noah ordered everyone to fall back and buy time, his eyes burning with resolve. He locked onto the unconscious kids, realizing they were victims of some dark magic ritual. Noah recognized the collars as mana-drain chalices, the exact sick tools that ruined the Daskor name in his past life. Kyle anxiously reported that they were outnumbered and couldn't hold the line much longer. Noah planned to use the holy demonic core to hack the artifact and track down the mastermind pulling the strings. A magic circle flared brilliant purple as Noah triggered his mana control technique. He closed his eyes, hyper-focusing on the energy ripples around him. From the shadows, a masked stranger silently monitored Noah's every move. "Found you," Noah smirked, his sharp eyes locking dead onto the target. He told the crew to watch the kids and darted into the woods to hunt the stalker. Noah cleaved through the orcs, blocking his path with basic but heavy slashes. The savage wolves were light work. Noah put them down in the blink of an eye. He blitzed through the forest, leaving trails of bright purple and gold in his wake. Every step Noah took radiated massive magical pressure. He slid to a smooth stop, still cracking the earth beneath his boots. "I know you're there, show yourself," Noah barked, his sword ready for blood. The second he spoke, a dark shadow dove from the canopy straight at him. The assassin unleashed an aerial slash packed with killing intent. But Noah was one step ahead, effortlessly dodging with a smooth sidestep. The stranger let out a shocked gasp, stunned his cover was blown that fast. He admitted Noah was a serious threat from the Daskor family, trash or not. Noah coldly demanded to know who ordered the hit, but obviously the assassin kept his mouth shut. "Then I'll just have to beat it out of you," Noah smirked, mana erupting around him. The fight kicked off, weapons clashing and sparking wildly. The assassin threw out nasty, unpredictable strikes trying to take Noah's head. He wondered if the weird power Noah flexed was actually a demonic core. Noah just gave him an icy glare. Hell, he didn't even fully understand this energy himself yet. The assassin jumped back to build momentum, prepping his secret ultimate move. He channeled his energy, wrapping his sword in pitch-black smoke for Shadow Dark Art, second form. A swarm of glowing red shadow blades materialized around him, looking highly lethal. "Shadow Dark Daggers," he roared, launching a barrage of blades at Noah. The crimson daggers flew in erratic arcs, boxing Noah in from all sides. Noah smirked with absolute confidence. He had already downloaded this move. He casually swatted the shadow blades away with lightning-fast swings. Noah muttered appraisal, and the guy's stat sheet instantly popped up. The stats labeled him Darius Zahard, an assassin with a 5-star demonic core but only 3-star sword skills. Noah noted that Darius's swordplay was garbage compared to his mana control. Darius kept desperately slinging blades at Noah. Noah blitzed in at terrifying speed, closing the gap to finish the fight. Noah stomped hard and launched into the air, still cloaked in purple-gold energy. He vaulted toward Darius, who had his blade pointed right at him. Noah was ready to end this quick. Noah closed in, eyes dripping with killing intent, and threw a heavy slash at his enemy. The swords collided, the ring of metal and the flash of magic creating a deadly, intense scene. Darius chuckled confidently behind his mask, thinking Noah's attack was way too predictable and easy to counter. He swung his blade, ripping a crimson slash through the air with massive destructive force. Noah stayed freakishly calm, spinning up a brand new technique to shut down the attack. "Holy demonic sword arts," Noah whispered, his breathing turning bizarrely steady and rhythmic. Noah's eyes glowed, calm but intense. His energy erupted even harder. Without warning, Noah popped Shadow Dark Step, the exact secret teleport Darius just used, lighting up the area. Darius lost his mind, seeing Noah standing right behind him, copying his move perfectly. He spun around, swinging his sword in a blind panic, but Noah's speed was on another level. "Too slow," Noah's voice cut like ice right next to Darius's ear, burying a brutal slash straight into him. Blood sprayed like rain, leaving Darius in absolute agony. He could only choke out a few weak groans. The assassin collapsed, dropping his sword to the dirt, ending the relentless combo. How do you know that technique?" Darius gasped out in pure shock. Noah thought back to his duel with Julia. That was when the true nature of the holy demonic core clicked. He realized the holy demonic core had the traits of both demonic and holy cores, letting him copy and recreate any technique. But Noah knew just copy-pasting moves wouldn't get him to the absolute top. Only by mastering the exclusive moves of the holy demonic core would his true power be fully unleashed. Noah smiled down at Darius, ordering him to spill the name of the coward who ordered the hit. But Darius had zero intention of folding. His eyes went psycho, ready to die for the cause. He pulled a shady green potion and slammed it back before Noah could stop him. "What is that?" Noah got a bad feeling something horrible was about to happen. Darius's body convulsed violently, letting out a guttural growl. Noah stayed on guard, watching the freak show. His hands mutated instantly, growing razor-sharp claws, his skin turning rough like a beast. Darius's eyes burned blood-red, packed with nasty fangs, radiating the thick killing intent of a monster with zero humanity left. Darius finished his beastification, throwing his head back and roaring at the sky. Noah was stunned. Beastification, this wasn't in the script. In a flash, the monster Darius lunged at Noah with speed and power miles above his previous state. Noah had to funnel everything into his sword just to block the brutal strike. The impact kicked up a shockwave, so heavy it cracked the ground under Noah's feet. His speed and power just jumped to a whole different tier. Noah gritted his teeth. The monster Darius laughed in triumph, wanting to see how long Noah could survive this power. The beast's claw swipes tore the air, forcing Noah entirely into defensive mode. Its bloodshot eyes stayed deadlocked on Noah, giving him zero breathing room to counter. Under relentless pressure, Noah had to fall back hard to dodge the fatal strikes. Every time Darius's claws grazed past, the wind pressure alone was enough to make Noah shiver. Noah barely dodged a hit, forcing 100% of his focus to read the monster's attack patterns. Darius smashed a chunk of the ground to pieces, while Noah vaulted into the air just in time. Noah pulled off a slick mid-air flip to line up a safe landing. He touched down firmly and dropped into a stance, his eyes sharper than ever against this heavyweight. Noah knew he couldn't play dodgeball forever. He needed to force an opening and strike back. He gripped his sword tight, ready to unleash all the mana he had been saving up. Darius, in his beast form, roared with laughter. "Kuhha, are you drowning in despair at this gap in power yet?" Without waiting for an answer, the monster dove in to execute Noah on the spot. Facing suffocating pressure, Noah stayed unbelievably cool, his eyes flashing with resolve. A brilliant light flared from Noah's ring, ready to pop his lifesaver artifact. The second Darius's attack hit, a hexagonal magic shield materialized, fully wrapping Noah. The monster caught a massive shockwave from the barrier and got launched into the air. "With the holy demonic core, I can recreate my past life's techniques," Noah declared confidently. Noah's sword vibrated wildly, coated in an incredibly strong purple-gold aura. He launched himself up, closing the gap on the monster hanging in midair. Holy demonic sword arts! Noah coldly readied the execution strike to end this once and for all. A vertical slash blazed like the sun, carrying world-ending power that shredded all defense. Twin polar blade! The heavy slash cleaved the beast right down the middle before it could even process what happened. A terrifying magic explosion lit up the sky, completely erasing the assassin Darius from existence. Noah landed lightly, letting out a sigh. Phew, that almost got messy. He looked at the absolute repulsion ring, the item that clutched up and gave him the window to counter. With the fight wrapped, Noah hurried back to link up with Kyle and the rest of the squad. Kyle and the crew were boxed in by orcs and wolves, swinging wildly just to survive the onslaught. Kyle was gassing out, sweat pouring down his face. He knew he was hitting his absolute limit. A massive orc swung a giant spiked club down. The strike carried the weight of a mountain straight at Kyle. Kyle could only cry out in despair, watching the Grim Reaper swing down with nowhere to run. But out of nowhere, the club froze midair. Kyle stood there, mind blank, trying to process it. All the monsters stopped dead and dropped aggro, leaving Kyle completely lost. The beasts turned and walked away, while the guards looked at each other, shocked they just dodged death. Noah strolled up casually, asking how everyone was doing like nothing even happened. Kyle, still shaking, mumbled a confirmation that they were alive, his voice still rattled. Noah looked at the three unconscious kids and explained he took out the guy controlling the mobs, which is why they backed off. Noah channeled his mana to break the collars choking the kids. He was still trying to figure out who funded the hit. These kids looked like forced conduits for dark magic, their faces twisted in pain and exhaustion. Noah's eyes went ice cold. He wasn't going to let this slide. Some bastard put innocent lives on the line. Leaving the miasma forest, Noah headed back to the Grand Daskor estate. Noah silently vowed to drag the mastermind into the light, refusing to let kids die for someone else's agenda. He thought of Eve, the family's resident secret keeper, hoping she could drop some clues. Noah knew he had to dig up a lead fast to kill this toxic plot. But right as he stepped up, a sharp halt froze him in his tracks. A blond guy with a strict glare blocked the path, reminding Noah that even family couldn't just stroll in here. Noah stopped in front of a luxurious mansion, blocked by his older brother, C's Daskor. Inside was Eve Daskor, the mastermind running the family's entire intel network. Based on what the maid Lydia said, Eve was the only one who knew who hired the hit on Noah. Radiating a dark purple killing intent, Noah coldly told C's to move. But C's didn't budge an inch, sensing the danger rolling off his brother. C's growled, flat out stating he couldn't trust a guy reeking of blood like Noah. Realizing talking was a waste of time, Noah tightened his grip on his sword. He drew his blade, deciding to carve a path inside by force. C's pulled his weapon too, clicking his tongue since things were past the point of no return. He took the initiative, rushing in at a terrifying speed. The swords crashed, sparking an explosive shockwave right between them. Noah braced himself, catching his brother's heavy slash. C's pushed hard, forcing Noah to skid backward across the dirt. Noah quickly jumped back to reset the spacing. Giving him zero breathing room, C's gathered magic in his palm. He chanted Stone Lance, making razor-sharp earth spears erupt from the ground. Noah stayed chill as the spears flew at him with heavy momentum. Noah swung his sword to counter. The spears had already boxed him in. A spinning slash shattered the spears to dust right before they could tag him. Instantly, C's tapped into his earth magic, casting Rock Sword, Shatterfang to forge a massive greatsword out of stone. Noah was stunned to see his brother flexing earth magic this smoothly. C's charged in with dual swords, his eyes locked on and razor-sharp. C swung hard at Noah, while Noah calmly tracked his brother's moves. Noah parried, the clash of power screaming out deafening metallic shrieks. C's kept the pressure high, forcing Noah to play heavy defense. His eyes were hyper-focused, not underestimating his younger brother for a second. They traded blows at Godspeed in the middle of the courtyard. Noah realized C's kit was way too versatile. He had to pop appraisal. The stats dropped. C's Daskor was an 8-star master in both physical specs and combat skills. Noah figured C's was using technique and magic to cover up his weak mana core. He decided to run a pure stat check and face him head-on one last time. Holy demonic art. Lightshadow sword dance was active, purple aura exploding. A massive pillar of light detonated, wiping out everything in range. C's was horrified by the pressure coming from Noah's supposedly trash mana core. The stone floor shattered, and Noah dashed like a streak of purple lightning. C's frantically took a stance, firing up the Shadow Lightning Sword Art's second form. The move Black Lightning Flash coated his blade in blood-red electricity. Noah stayed cool. He already read the flow of this sword style. He dug into his memories of the Daskor family's core sword foundations. C's supposedly undodgeable strike was getting completely downloaded by Noah. C smirked, claiming textbook theory meant nothing in a real fight. Noah roared, "Bring it," with a dead-set, piercing glare. C's wound up for the finisher, blood-red killing intent swallowing his sword. He swung, ripping a crimson energy vortex that tore through the wind. Noah didn't back down, swinging his sword high, wrapped in blinding purple mana. He screamed, dumping all his power into a head-on clash with C's magic. Red and purple slammed together, sparking earth-shattering energy lightning. Boom, a blinding explosion blasted dust and rubble everywhere. The smoke cleared, leaving a wrecked courtyard in the aftermath. Noah was still standing, his sword radiating insanely heavy purple pressure. They both paused, eyeing each other carefully before round 2. Noah thought to himself that even sword dance couldn't fully style on this guy. He realized Capped moves had a hard cap and were always weaker than the original. To really level up, Noah had to forge his own techniques using the holy demonic core. Right as the fight peaked, an authoritative voice cut in, "That's enough." Eve Daskor stepped out of the mansion, looking elegant and unbothered. The two were brought inside, where the vibe was quiet and lavish, totally different from the yard. Eve offered Noah a seat and bluntly asked why they were tearing up her front lawn. C's defended himself, saying he couldn't just ignore a guy walking up drenched in killing intent. Noah wondered out loud why Daskor needed a bodyguard sticking to her like glue. Eve just offered a soft smile, admitting she wasn't exactly built for throwing hands. C's chimed in that Eve had zero part in the family succession war, so what was Noah even doing here? Noah paused. Eve cut straight to the chase. "You want the name of the guy who sent the assassins, right?" Noah was slightly thrown off by how fast his sister read the board. Eve confidently flexed that there was very little in this world she didn't know. Even as family, in the intel game, she wasn't handing out freebies. Noah knew the drill. He asked what her asking price was. Eve dropped a legendary name, the Infinite Library. It was a massive labyrinth hoarding knowledge humanity had never even touched. It dragged in countless adventurers, but the deeper you went, the nastier the monsters got, making it a pure death trap. Eve's bounty was a specific book, the Tome of the Eternal Abyss. Noah instantly remembered it. The book flashed clearly in his mind. In his past life, that exact book flipped the entire magic theory world on its head. Even though the world still ended, the theories in there saved a ton of lives. Noah nodded, promising to drag that book back for his sly sister. They shook on it, locking in the high-stakes trade. Horse hooves clattered as Noah kicked off his trip to the library city. He chilled in the carriage with the maids, getting his head right for the long road. The carriage pulled up to the gates of Arcanum, home to the Infinite Library. Noah stepped into the streets, feeling the hustle but also the heavy danger in the air. To find a book in that maze, Noah knew he needed a pro guide. He navigated the packed streets, hunting for a lead. Noah ducked into a quiet alley, hoping to find his guy. Back at another lavish Dasquor estate, it was unusually dead quiet. Eve Dasquor was casually sipping tea in her high-end lounge. The butler bowed and escorted a VIP guest into the room. It was Scar Dasquor, one of the brothers gunning for the throne. Scar threw up a fake smile. "Got a few questions about Noah for you." Eve kept a poker face, totally unfazed by her brother crashing her spot. They sat face to face, the room heavy with the paranoid tension of a royal bloodline. Eve replied smoothly, "Rare to see you go out of your way to visit me." Scar cut the crap. He wanted access to her intel network. He noticed C's was missing and learned the bodyguard was out running an errand for their father. Scar smirked, seeing Eve was sitting there with zero muscle around. But Eve wasn't sweating it. She trusted her hidden shadows to do their job. She knew exactly what Scar wanted, dirt on Noah's sudden glow-up. Scar remembered the insane power Noah flexed when he clashed with Julia. He desperately wanted to crack the secret of how the trash of the family suddenly turned into a prodigy. Hell, Noah even wiped the floor with Scar's elite assassins. Scar admitted Eve's spy network was actually top tier. But Eve slowly set her teacup down. She wasn't leaking a damn thing. She explained she was playing Switzerland in this power grab. Picking a side would just put a target on her back for the rest of the family. Scar's eyes went cold. He was not vibing with that rejection. Eve challenged him back, asking if he could even afford the price to make her risk her neck. Scar flashed a dark grin, hinting she'd change her tune sooner or later. His killing intent flooded the room as he laid out a grim warning. Meanwhile, in Arcanum, the library tower pierced the sky like a titan. Noah walked through the crowded market, locked onto his target. He turned down an empty street, stopping at a magic tool shop. Noah pushed the door, the bell ringing to announce his entry. The walls were packed with bizarre weapons and magic gear. Dusty shelves stacked with old knowledge boxed in the shop. Noah looked around with nostalgia. He knew this was the den of the legendary guide. The owner, Osric Harves, popped out and coldly stated the shop was closed. Noah clarified he wasn't shopping. He was hearing a guide for the labyrinth. Osric shot him down flat, saying he was retired and out of the game. He snapped when Noah called him the best guide in the city. Noah thought it was wild that a guy who loved the library this much would just quit. He prodded, trying to dig up the real reason Osric hung it up. Osric slammed the table, yelling that it was personal and none of a kid's business. A heavy silence followed. Osric was clearly sitting on some deep trauma. He cooled off and apologized for losing it on a customer. Right on cue, the door chime rang out again. Julia Dasquor walked in, catching Noah totally off guard. Julia strolled and acting like she knew Noah would be here the whole time. She claimed she spotted him while on a mission and just tagged along. Noah thought, "Isn't that just a fancy way of saying you're stalking me?" Osric was floored when he realized the woman was the infamous Julia Dasquor. Julia called Noah kid with pure arrogance, but he instantly snapped back, telling her his name was Noah Dasquor. To their shock, Osric flipped his stance and agreed to guide them, but with one catch. Noah was suspicious of the quick 180, sensing a heavy catch behind Osric's demand. Osric led them to the back, pulling them into a small room hidden behind the shelves. Inside, a pale woman lay unconscious on a bed. It was Osric's wife. Osric heartbreakingly explained that a month ago, a labyrinth monster hit her with a sick curse. The memory of the nightmare flashed in his head, a shadow beast radiating terrifying red killing intent. The curse locked her in a permanent coma, draining her life away until she died unless it was broken. Julia deduced the only fix was to kill the caster. Osric nodded bitterly. He had hired veteran adventurers, but they all got wiped. Osric begged Julia, a top-tier expert, to dive into the maze and save his wife. Julia smirked and agreed, but made it mandatory that Noah join the hit squad. She put a hand on Noah's shoulder, wanting to use this run to witness her little brother's true combat specs. Noah realized Julia still didn't buy his sudden power spike and wanted to stress test him. He took the challenge, looking Osric in the eye and declaring, "I'm counting on you as our guide." Osric pumped his fist, swearing to give 100% to get them to the target and save his wife. The Infinite Library raid officially began. Noah and Julia stood before the massive Infinite Library Tower. Julia asked if he was really okay dropping his other mission for this. But her eyes were just full of curiosity. Julia admitted what she really wanted was the cheat code behind his sudden power-up. She thought back to their duel. Some alien energy had hard-countered her power, something completely different from a standard demonic core. Julia challenged that in this maze, Noah would have to leak his secret. Noah noted that you really couldn't fool an elite like his sister. Just then, Osric Harves ran up with a massive backpack, apologizing for keeping them waiting. Julia kept it brief, coldly signaling to move out. The trio pushed into the tower zone. The lobby was packed, reeking of adventurer vibes with all kinds of gear and weapons. Osric hit the registry desk, announcing that from here on out, survival relied 100% on their teamwork. The grunts around them started whispering when they recognized Osric. They looked at Noah and Julia with pity, marking them as the next casualties. Stopping at the massive stone gates, Osric introduced the entrance to the Infinite Library. He threw his weight into pushing the heavy doors open. A mystical light and magic particles bled out, revealing a completely different world inside. Osric took point, leading Noah and Julia right into the belly of the tower. They were hit with a jaw-dropping space, bookshelves scraping the sky and stone bridges hanging in the void. Even Julia was stunned by the scale. She admitted without a guide, getting lost here was a guarantee. Endless corridors stretched out, weaving through giant shelves. Mid-walk, Noah froze, his eyes glued to a distant wall in pure shock. It was an ancient mural depicting the invaders crushing the world, the exact apocalypse that wiped his past life. Noah never expected to find a clue about them here. He had visited in his past life but totally missed this. The painting showed colossal, overwhelming entities. Noah figured this might be the cheat sheet to beating them. He flashed a confident smirk, his eyes locking in with resolve. Noah snapped back to reality. The primary objective was still bagging the Eternal Tome. Floor 1, Noah's crew walked through towering shelves packed with the world's knowledge. Osric checked the map, explaining that deeper floors spawned rarer books. The Abyssal Tome was likely chilling around Floor 20. Noah noted that Floor 20 was the absolute limit humanity had ever reached in this maze. Up ahead, a massive magic circle flared neon blue right in the pathway. The squad stopped as the array's light spiked. A mob of bulky humanoid monsters, holding axes and shields, materialized to block them. Osric looked a little spooked, asking if Noah could clear the trash for him. Noah just rested his hand on his hilt, confirming it was light work. He blitzed forward like lightning, his sword painting lethal arcs through the mobs. Noah capped off the combo with a clean, low-profile stance. The monsters instantly dropped, heads rolling before they even knew what hit them. Osric's sweat dropped at Noah's speed, while Julia stayed icy, telling the squad to keep moving. They hit Floor 10. The vibe was way older and grimmer than the top floors. Osric stepped to a shelf and pulled an old book, triggering a hidden switch. A secret door behind the shelf slid open, exposing a hidden path. Inside was another teleport array. Osrek called it a shortcut to skip straight to the deep zones. The trio stepped into the circle, ready for a spatial jump. The array fired up, warping them into the deep void of the library. A blinding light flared as they dropped into the new zone. Noah shielded his nose, adjusting to the heavy mana pressure choking the area. They stood before a massive hall leading to floor 20, guarded by much nastier spawns. Julia called it. The next boss was definitely waiting dead ahead. They pushed forward. Another giant magic circle was waiting, this one leaking incredibly heavy dark mana. They stepped closer. Weird noises echoed from the array, making them stop. Pitch-black, gross roots burst from the circle, thrashing around like giant snakes. A colossal wooden body formed, totally blocking their view. It was an Elder Trent, a monster tree covered in glowing red eyes staring right down at them. Osrek panicked, realizing this wasn't a standard Trent. He said it usually took a full S-rank party to put one down. Julia didn't care at all, brushing the monster off as no big deal. She smirked, finding Osrek's panic over party size amusing. Drawing her sword, Julia announced she alone was more than enough to pack this tree up. She launched herself at the boss at wind-tearing speed. The Elder Trent roared, firing massive wooden spikes to impale her. Facing the giant spikes, Julia didn't flinch, pushing straight ahead. She vaulted into the air, dodging the monster's lethal thrusts. Julia closed in on the main trunk, aiming her slash directly at the eyes. A heavy strike landed, but the bark was way tougher than she thought. Her blade bounced off the steel-like shell, knocking her back. The main eye flared with rage. Julia dropped back, lowering her stance to stabilize after realizing this thing was a tank. Osrek screamed from the back, yelling that its body was like steel and a swordsman couldn't just brute force it. He wanted a mage. Without warning, a swarm of root tentacles burst from the floor, wrapping Julia up from all sides. She was hoisted into the air, bound so tight she couldn't move a muscle or swing her sword. The Elder Trent brought its giant root hands in, ready to crush the tiny prey that dared challenge it. Seeing Julia tied up, Noah yelled in panic, ready to jump in and save her. Suddenly, blazing red energy bled out from the root hands. Julia popped the dark fire sword art's fifth form. The root hands exploded into pieces, vines snapping everywhere. A red-black magic aura engulfed her, forging an armor of fire that burned anything it touched. Noah was stunned his sister could wield such an insane fire armor. Breaking free, Julia instantly dropped into a stance, prepping the next form. She swung dark fire funneling from the armor into her blade, blazing wildly. The Elder Trent went berserk, extending its massive branches to flatten her. Julia dashed through the dark fire, leaving a blinding streak across the gloomy library. She dodged the monster's thrusts flawlessly with insane speed. Using the giant trunk, she ran along the heavy branches, lining up her shot on the move. Julia vaulted high, completely out of range of the thrashing roots below. She roared, dumping all her power into a devastating downward slash. A massive streak of black fire ripped through the Elder Trent, slicing it clean in half. The giant tree boss detonated, spraying wood and black fire everywhere. Julia casually walked out of the wreckage, confident her blade could cut anything, even steel. But Osrek screamed a warning. The boss wasn't dead yet. A hidden root shot up, snagging Julia's leg and yanking hard. In a heartbeat, dozens of roots swarmed and locked her down again. Julia smirked, admitting these plant types had crazy regen unless you burned them to ash. She focused her firepower into the core of the roots binding her, prepping a massive internal explosion. Noah watched and realized his sister was winding up the third form of the dark fire arts. He grabbed Osrek and hauled ass to avoid the blast radius. Noah yelled at Osrek to run for his life, because Julia's firepower was about to detonate. Julia's eyes flashed a lethal red right in the middle of the root trap. Dark fire burst triggered, a vicious explosion blowing everything away. Noah and Osrek ran for their lives from the insane heatwave chasing them. The whole corridor was swallowed by red-black fire, blasting both of them to the floor. Noah panted, looking at the ashes, wondering if Julia really needed to nuke the whole place just to stop the region. Julia stepped out of the smoke and flames, looking like a literal war goddess. She sheathed her sword and calmly asked if they were ready to keep moving. Osrek was still shell-shocked, never expecting Julia to solo that nightmare Trent. Even though the dark fire arts burned crazy mana, it delivered the highest DPS on the continent. The squad pushed deeper. Osrek admitted Julia's power was way crazier than the rumors. They finally hit floor 20, the vault of the deepest secrets. Noah instantly locked onto a shelf in the corner, his gut telling him something was up. He cheered, grabbing the target book, exactly what they came for. Julia reminded him they still had to hunt the monster that cursed Osrek's wife, which was supposedly roaming here too. They moved down the massive aisles of floor 20, tracking any clues. Noah wondered if the monster only spawned near the plaza leading to the next floor. Dead ahead was a giant mural of a knight, fighting a massive wooden puppet. Noah stood frozen, getting a bizarrely familiar vibe from the painting. He flinched when an icy voice echoed out of nowhere, "Found you." His hands scrambled through the book pages, the rustling amplifying his anticipation. Noah's eyes went cold. He sensed a massive evil presence closing in fast. Julia and Noah drew their blades simultaneously, stepping in front of Osrek as the threat materialized. The final boss finally showed up, a cursed knight, massive, rocking a mutated, spiked red demon arm. Osrek shook with rage, pointing at the monster and screaming that it was the bastard that ruined his wife. The beast growled, leaking a heavy dark aura that felt like it was suffocating the entire 20th floor. Noah planted his feet, ready to rush in and end this nightmare for good. The cursed knight snarled, its demon arm looking insanely lethal with bulging, glowing red muscle. Noah Daskward dropped into a stance, eyes sharp. He decided to hunt some monsters as a warm-up. Julia dashed in out of nowhere, her blade radiating red killing intent, and ordered Noah to fall back. She stomped the floor, building momentum for her assault. Julia claimed she had this, wrapped in the blazing red aura of her sword technique. The cursed knight didn't flinch, swinging its giant arm in a heavy, destructive arc. A crimson slash tore through the library's gloom from the knight. Meanwhile, Julia charged in head first. Julia threw her sword up to block. The monstrous weight of the knight's slash made her grind her teeth. The raw power of the cursed knight was insane. Julia was blown straight into the bookshelves behind her. Pushed back by the massive force, Julia looked genuinely shocked by the boss's raw stats. With blood trickling down her lip, Julia knew a war of attrition was a losing game. She moved at terrifying speed, wall jumping off the shelves to stay airborne. Using the high ground, Julia dove like a red lightning bolt straight at the enemy. She attacked from the blind spot to catch the cursed knight lacking. Her eyes burned with resolve, aiming to one-shot it. Julia swung a brutal slash. Metal clashed as the knight brought its giant clawed hand up to block just in time. The impact sent out a shockwave. Noah watched from a distance, analyzing the power scaling. Noah wondered if that monster actually just tanked a strike so fast he could barely track it. The fight stayed at Godspeed, Julia raining blows to force the monster to turtle up. Julia stuck a solid landing, winding up for the ultimate finisher. A flaming magic circle locked under her feet. This was the second form of the Shadow Flame School. Shadow Flame Vortex. A massive pillar of fire erupted, completely swallowing the cursed knight. Noah and Osrek Harves took cover behind a wooden pillar. While Osrek was mind-blown, Noah stayed chill. The monster ripped through the fire wall, swinging its sword at Julia with crushing pressure. Julia didn't panic, cleanly dodging the boss's lethal swing. "Got you," Julia closed in, confident this strike would put the tanky boss in the dirt. But her blade bounced right off its heavy armor, 0 damage dealt. Julia froze, her ultimate move totally nullified, while her lip bled even more. The monster threw a brutal counter, launching Julia away like a rag doll. She hit the deck, groaning in pain from the heavy impact. Noah zeroed in and noticed the boss's armor didn't have a single scratch. Julia forced herself up, but the monster stood in front of her, completely unfazed. Suddenly, the knight's jaw unhinged, charging up a terrifying neon green energy. Julia checked her arm. It was covered in a green curse eating through her flesh. The monster fired a massive destructive beam. Julia could only stand there, knowing she couldn't dodge. Thank God Noah blitzed in, grabbing Julia and tackling her out of the death beam's path. The green laser erased everything in its way, carving a massive trench through the infinite library. Noah checked on her. Julia nodded she could still fight, but warned him to watch out for its arm. The cursed knight stomped closer. Julia warned that a single touch meant instant curse. Julia gritted her teeth in frustration, knowing her busted arm meant she couldn't solo this boss. Noah stayed serious, his face full of resolve, saying he needed her help for one thing. The monster started charging another energy blast, looking even deadlier than the last. Noah asked Julia to let him borrow her move to replay that last attack. Julia sighed, calling it a cruel request. Julia charged first, yelling she'd handle the monster and target its annoying demon arm. They hit it with a combo, Julia with her crimson aura and Noah with purple lightning, pincering the cursed knight. Julia dropped Shadow Flame Sword Dance, while Noah fired back with the Holy Demonic School's Lichido Sword Dance. The two massive sword auras slammed into the monster, triggering an earth-shattering explosion in the library. The flash blinded everything, shaking the zone like it was about to collapse. But out of the smoke, a giant pillar of fire shot up. The monster was still standing. The smoke cleared, revealing the cursed knight looking even worse, drenched in thick dark energy. It let out a horrifying roar, the pressure forcing both of them to back up. Julia and Noah both felt the pure stat check. Noah realized this monster's scaling was completely broken. Julia threw another massive red crescent slash, but the monster just smoothly glided out of the way. She vaulted up to dodge a lightning-fast counter, while Noah hunted for an opening. Another head-on clash. Noah had to flex everything to block the giant greatsword coming down. Red energy erupted from the beast. Noah knew if he didn't dodge, he'd get flattened instantly. He sweat dropped, eyes wide, staring at death. Julia screamed one word, dodge. Julia fired the Shadow Flame's second form, throwing fire pillars around the knight to peel for Noah. A massive fire blast hit the monster, but it still wasn't enough to drop it. The knight's mouth glowed green again, charging up a ranged nuke. Julia screamed Noah's name, realizing he was caught dead center in the monster's lethal crosshairs. Noah held his ground, dumping all his mana into the blade, popping the Holy Demonic School's ultimate art. Twin Polar Blade. Noah fired an insanely fast dual strike right into the charging mouth. Noah's blade crashed head-on with the knight, blowing sparks and pressure everywhere. He tried to drive the sword deep into its mouth, but the beast clamped its razor teeth on the blade. Noah noticed something off. A highly dangerous red aura started bleeding from the knight. This is bad. Noah realized the fight was spiraling completely out of control. Julia yelled Shadow Flame Vortex, drowning the knight in a fire pillar to save Noah. Julia dropped back panting, telling Noah they were even on life saves now. Noah saw his sister's mana core was tapped out. Even her ult was useless now. He debated if retreating was the only play, considering the boss was still full HP and built like a tank. Out of nowhere, a second cursed knight stomped in, its dark aura literally choking the air. Noah panicked, unable to process they were fighting two bosses way above their weight class. Suddenly, a weird voice echoed in Noah's head, trashing his technique as clunky and flawed. Noah froze, realizing that voice wasn't Julia or anyone else in the room. The area shifted into an endless white void. The voice kept critiquing his versatile but unbalanced power. Stuck in this weird space, Noah demanded to know who was talking and where the hell he was. The voice dropped a bomb. Noah was the heir to the divine core, the first to pop up in centuries. The entity told Noah not to die for nothing, offering to teach him how to one-shot the boss. Back in reality, the monster raised its greatsword to execute Noah while he was zoned out. Julia screamed in absolute panic, having no clue why Noah was just standing there waiting to die. Right then, a glowing system window popped. Air Awakening confirmed, unlocking Divine Core System. Noah gripped his hilt, a blinding, majestic holy light wrapping his entire blade. Divine Style, second form. Noah primed a brand new, broken attack to flip the board instantly. His eyes glowed a mystic purple, whispering the god-tier move, Twin Heaven Rend. A massive golden sword wave swept through, blasting the cursed knight directly and drowning it in light. The insane power shattered the knight's armor and cape. It was completely caught off guard. Noah smirked confidently, fully unlocking the terrifying power of the holy demonic core surging in his veins. Standing tall in the blinding aura, Noah declared the monster's game was over, and he was returning the favor doubled. Noah swung his blade surrounded by the two cursed knights, an epic halo radiating behind him. A window popped up, invitation accepted. He found himself back in the white void, the sword in his hand totally transformed. Noah realized he had officially inherited the divine core. A massive light erupted from below, carrying insane pressure. A golden-armored entity appeared, standing face to face with Noah. He kept his guard up, asking who this guy was. He introduced himself as Zex Valmuth, the previous owner of the divine core. Zex called the power Noah was using a defective bootleg, leaving Noah speechless. A vision of the past played, showing the invaders slaughtering the human army. According to him, humanity got cooked because of internal drama and infighting. He added that other factions assassinated him because they feared the divine core's power. To stop the divine core from respawning, they split the original power into two defective halves, the demonic core and the holy core. Since Noah bagged both, he met the specs to inherit the true divine core. Noah asked if they could have beaten the monsters without the betrayal. Zex reminisced about his prime, soloing giant monsters left and right. He stated as a fact that without the backstabbing, the invaders would have been wiped out. Noah clenched his fists, swearing to use this power to rewrite the timeline. But Zex warned that with his current stats, he wasn't there yet. Noah just smirked, totally hyped for the new grind. Zex smiled, satisfied, and started coaching him from the ground up. Noah snapped back to the library, 6 blades of light exploding around him. He spun into a stance, ready to flex the new tech. Noah rushed the monster at Godspeed, golden light tearing the room apart. He locked onto the target, dead set on slicing it to pieces. Heavy, devastating slashes blew the surrounding bookshelves away. 6 light swords danced around Noah like invisible arms. This was Twin Heaven Rend, the ultimate art of freely controlling 6 blades. The monster's mutated arm was cleanly lopped off like paper. Osric watched from the back, completely frozen in shock. Noah kept swinging, raining a barrage of light on the boss. He chased the monster down, the golden blades relentlessly hunting it. Game over, Noah declared with absolute confidence. He delivered one clean, definitive slash right through the monster's core. The beast screamed in agony as divine power cut it in half. "That's one," Noah said casually, while the severed head went flying. He vaulted onto the collapsed knight's body, 6 golden blades still spinning. Noah turned, glaring at the second cursed knight. The remaining boss suddenly fired a highly lethal green blast. Julia screamed a warning, telling Noah to dodge right now. A massive explosion hit, dust and green energy swallowing the room, heading straight for Noah. Instantly, Noah spun, weaving the light swords into a solid shield. The green laser detonated violently, but Noah calmly held his ground. The green light tore the room apart, drowning him in a terrifying blast. The smoke cleared, the monster watching and waiting. Noah stood like a tank in the rubble, his 6 light swords still burning hot. Julia's eyes went wide, shocked he walked out of that nuke without a scratch. Noah recalled the last light sword, coldly announcing the second boss was dealt with. A massive blast of golden light erupted. The light swords skewered the knight. The raw power of the blades crushed everything in their path. Noah sheathed his sword, while the monster fell backward, completely dead. A system window popped with good news. Divine Core leveled up to 2, unlocking a new mystery skill. He read the floating text, looking like Zex praising his execution. Zex reminded Noah this was just the start of the Divine Core's scaling. Noah clenched his fist, feeling the new power in his veins. He even bagged a new technique. Osric ran up, jaw dropped, refusing to believe Noah actually soloed both bosses. Julia walked over too, confirming the monster was definitely dead. She realized the cursed debuff on her body vanished the second it died. Hearing his wife's curse might be broken too, Osric cried tears of joy. But Julia looked at Noah with heavy suspicion, refusing to buy that a 2-star could pull this off. She confronted Noah, demanding to know where he learned that weird sword style. Noah stayed quiet, so Julia started analyzing every demonic core faction she knew. Could be the tricky demonic sword school, the base of all sword arts here. Or the Shadow Flame School, pumping out fighters with brutal fire attacks. She even considered the Shadow Lightning School with their speed blitzing moves. Or the Abyss School, specializing in stealth and nasty tricks. But Noah's moves didn't match any of them, making her even more curious about his cheat code. They locked eyes, Julia digging for answers, Noah totally unbothered. Julia smirked, realizing she found a genuinely entertaining rival right in her own house. She challenged him, saying she couldn't wait for the day they bet their cores in a deathmatch. Cut to the imposing Dasquer estate under a blue sky. Noah walked with a guard, holding his new loot book, planning to grill Eve for info. He pushed the door open, but the vibe inside was insanely heavy. C's Dasquer stood there looking devastated, dropping the bomb that Eve was kidnapped while he was out. The mastermind was Scar, grabbing Eve just to torture Noah's secrets out of her. According to an escaped maid, Scar was definitely setting a trap for his little brother. Noah let out an icy laugh. He already figured Scar hired the assassins anyway. Without missing a beat, he decided to roll out and save Eve, ignoring his guards' protests. When asked if he really wanted to beef with Lord Scar, Noah just gave a cocky smirk. "Don't call this a balanced fight," Noah declared, eyes purple and cold. "This is a one-sided slaughter." C's jumped up to tag along and fix his mistake, ignoring his own injuries. The guard tried to stop them, saying they needed to rally troops first to play it safe. Noah shut it down, they were on the clock, and drew his sword to head out. He left base defense to the guard, ordering them to hold the line even if sieged. The loyal guard nodded, swearing to protect the estate at all costs. Noah walked off with C's, coldly ordering a frontal assault on Scar's base. Two horses sprinted down the dirt road, kicking up dust with every stride. On the way, C's was stressing over Eve's safety, even though she was tough. Noah asked why a guy like C's played bodyguard for Eve anyway. C's got quiet, then admitted his demonic core was busted. He explained his base stats were garbage compared to the rest of the siblings. He thought of Eve's kindness. She was the only one who always backed him up. To cover his weak stats, C's grinded every secret combat skill and forged his own unique style. Noah listened, finally understanding why C's rhythm was so hard to read during their fight. Ready to die for Eve, C's pushed his horse to sprint faster. Soon enough, the massive iron gates of Scar's estate loomed ahead. Noah jumped off his horse with absolute authority, declaring he was done holding back. A massive purple-gold aura erupted, wrapping Noah like lightning. With one brutal kick, he blew the heavy gates off their hinges, the explosion echoing everywhere. Noah charged in like a missile, C's right behind him with his sword drawn. Instantly, a massive squad of masked assassins blocked their path. C's recognized them immediately. These were Scar's elite black ops. He knew these guys were hardened vets with lethal combat skills. The assassins watched from the walls. Glowing red eyes stared from the shadows, ready to pack up anyone trespassing. Vault Graves stood waiting in a mask and red scarf, mocking the brothers for walking through the front door. Noah didn't care about these mobs. He ordered them to scram and drag Scar out here. Vault sneered, calling Noah arrogant for ignoring the massive numbers disadvantage. An assassin suddenly lunged at Noah's back with a dagger. Noah reacted instantly, throwing a blind parry to block the stab in a flash. He swung a brutal slash, sending the assassin flying back screaming. Vault drew a heavy sword, ordering his men to show zero mercy to anyone fighting Scar. Noah didn't care, diving right into the mob with his sword glowing with mana. Instantly, Vault dashed in to parry Noah. The clash of steel rang out across the courtyard. The two went at it hard, trading heavy, unpredictable strikes. Vault blocked a slash from Noah, the two glaring at each other. On the other side, C's was boxed in by a whole squad of assassins. C's vaulted into the air to break the encirclement, prepping a heavy counter. He charged his mana for the Shadow Lightning Sword Arts, third form. A massive blue lightning bolt crashed down for Shadow Lightning Flash. The insane voltage blasted the assassins away like straw dummies. The guards screamed as C's electric AoE wiped the floor with them. C stood tall in the carnage, daring the rest to step up. Noah glanced over, knowing he could leave that flank entirely to his brother. Vault sneak attacked, yelling at Noah for looking away mid-fight. He tossed a scroll into the air right in Noah's face. The scroll detonated with red mana, projecting an evil hexagram array. A massive magic circle spread under Noah's feet, swallowing the yard. Noah stared at the glowing red dirt, wondering what this junk was. Vault bragged it was a secret art, custom-built to wipe out Daskwar family members. He charged, his blade wrapped in deadly purple lightning. Noah's eyes flared with purple killing intent. He was dead set on ending this fast. The system ID'd Vault Grave, a 6-star swordsman with a 5-star mana core. Noah went to pop Divine Sword Arts, second form, to counter Vault. But right as he channeled his mana, the sword buzzed and died out. Noah's arm shook, his mana wasn't listening. Noah groaned, realizing his body was getting severely nerfed. A purple mana slash blasted Noah backward. Noah was shocked. That attack completely hard-locked his mana core. Vault gloated, telling Noah not to dream of winning with pure swordplay while silenced. The red array kept pulsing, trapping both Noah and Seize. They realized things were going south fast, since they were getting swarmed. He clicked his tongue. This silence debuff was a massive headache. Seize told Noah to push through, while he stayed behind to hold aggro. Seize brushed off the danger, telling Noah to go save Eve and wreck Scar. Noah gave Seize one last look, locking in his focus. He pushed off hard, blitzing through the assassins like a tornado. Ignoring the blades flying at him, Noah pushed straight for the mansion at max speed. Seize realized that even with Noah's mana core sealed, he could still spam basic magic. A giant stone pillar erupted from the ground, launching the surrounding assassins away. It lifted Noah up to the higher floors. With stone path, Seize built a solid rock bridge straight into the mansion. Seize yelled, telling Noah to check the isolated villa, because that's where Eve had to be. Vault Grave panicked seeing Noah go up, screaming at his men to chase him down. But the stone pillar morphed, shooting out deadly spikes to impale anyone getting close. Vault scowled, pissed off looking at the wall of spikes blocking his path. The whole yard was instantly covered in deadly stone traps, pinning Scar's forces down. Vault glared at Noah with pure rage, feeling totally disrespected. Seize mocked the assassin from afar, asking if he forgot who he was supposed to be fighting. Inside, Scar Daskwar stood over Eve, trying to force Noah's secrets out of her. Tied to a chair, Eve coldly shot back that asking 1,000,000 times wouldn't change her answer. Scar smirked evilly, reminding his sister he bagged all her spies and maids as hostages. Eve sighed in pure disgust, feeling humiliated to share blood with a piece of trash like Scar. Scar froze, screaming in rage at his sister's insults. But suddenly, loud explosions and screams from outside interrupted him. Scar guessed Noah showed up, laughing at his idiot brother for running headfirst into his army. He glared at Eve, claiming she still didn't grasp the trap he set. Eve smiled in relief, stating Noah had the most important Daskwar trait, absolute pride. Scar laughed maliciously, dying to see Noah's so-called power himself. He cursed Eve out and finally drew his sword. Without warning, the window behind him shattered. Noah landed heavy, catching Scar totally off guard. Scar spun around in shock, while Eve smiled at her savior. Noah walked out of the dust with his sword drawn, casually calling Eve's name. Even in danger, Eve teased that her little brother arrived way too late. Scar roared Noah's name in a blind rage, leveling his sword straight at him. Noah didn't flinch. A cold, confident smirk etched across his face. The two leveled their swords at each other, and Noah declared it was time to settle this blood